Ridge Forrester stood at the window, holding an untouched tumbler of scotch and looking blankly into the twilight sky beyond the Los Angeles skyline. For years there had been whispers, tiny warnings, and the smallest hint of mistrust in his gut. But Ridge, ever the devoted father, ever the man who had endured heartbreak and betrayal, never let those murmurs grow into belief. Brooke repeatedly assured him that RJ was his. When their son was born, it was the only moment of certainty in a tumultuous relationship dominated by instability, longing, and emotional warfare. But everything was going to change. It began with a seemingly simple conversation. During brunch, Steffi casually mentioned a new genetics-based wellness app that had grabbed the fashion world by storm. Thomas, never one to follow trends, rolled his eyes. But RJ had been curious. Young, idealistic, and ready to connect with the world that had been profoundly molded by the Forrester bloodline. And so he had taken the test. Nobody had thought about it at the time. Until the findings were in. They initially assumed there had been a mix-up. A faulty sample. Perhaps the app was not as accurate as stated. Ridge, however, became concerned about the strange inconsistencies in RJ's paternal markers and decided to conduct a more official investigation. He chatted with his family physician. He had blood tests performed, this time under close supervision. And when the results arrived, everything came undone. RJ wasn't his biological son. The silence in the mansion that evening was not the peaceful type Ridge had come to appreciate in his periods of seclusion. Rather, it screamed. The kind that resonated through the marble corridors and rested hard on his chest. His mind drifted back to the beginning, to Brooke's beautiful grin when she told him she was pregnant. Her eyes had glistened with excitement. She gripped his hand and murmured that they had been given a second chance, that fate had blessed them with the kid who would seal their bond. He wanted to think she was telling the truth. He wanted to assume she didn't know. But deep down, he knew Brooke could lie when the stakes were great. Brooke Logan, beautiful, temperamental, and passionate, had formed her existence around loving Ridge, losing him and then loving him again. In between the cycles of their whirlwind relationship, there had been other men. Nick, Deacon, Bill. Ridge had never kept a score, although he had previously kept receipts. He did not take the confrontation with Brooke lightly. He drove to her house slowly, like a man on the verge of collapse. He did not call. He did not give her time to prepare. He wanted to see her face, raw and vulnerable, when he uttered the question he never expected to ask. She answered the door wearing a silk robe, her hair flowing around her shoulders. The familiarity of the event struck him as painfully domestic. They'd spent so many evenings like this, sharing vulnerable, intimate moments in one another's arms. But tonight the illusion was shattered. "Ridge," she replied, shocked, and stepped aside to allow him in. He went in silently, jaw set. She followed him into the living room, worried expression on her face. "What's going on?" He turned to face her, his eyes as icy as she had ever seen them. "Who is RJ's father?" The question landed like a slap. Brooke's breath caught and her lips parted, but no sound emerged. "You know what I'm asking," Ridge stated quietly. "Do not lie to me." "Not now." Tears welled up instantaneously. Brooke grabbed for him impulsively, but he backed away. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't do this." "Don't do this," he insisted. "You already have. I had the test run. Twice. RJ. He is not mine, Brooke." Her knees buckled slightly, and she slumped onto the couch. The ensuing hush was almost sacred. The truth had finally surfaced, and there was no way to return it to the bottle. Brooke hid her face with her hands. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know for sure." "That's not good enough," Ridge muttered, his heart thumping. "You said he was mine. You looked me in the eyes and said, 'We made a baby together.'" "I wanted it to be true," she exclaimed. "I loved you. I wondered if there was any chance." "A chance. A chance," Ridge shouted. "You gambled with a child's identity. With my life. For nearly 2 decades you led me to believe he was my son." Her weeping flowed freely now. "I felt afraid. I wasn't sure how to tell you. There were so many errors, Ridge. So many nights I longed to go back and mend things." "Who is it?" he demanded. "Nick? Deacon?" She gazed up at him with tear-stained cheeks. "It's Nick." Ridge closed his eyes with his heart pounding. Of course it was Nick Marone. The man who had always hovered on the fringes of their relationship. Who had always found a way back into Brooke's life when Ridge was unavailable or distracted. Did he know? Ridge inquired, already fearing the outcome. No, Brooke replied hastily. He never knew. I concealed it from him too. And RJ? He has no idea. He loves you. You are his father in every way that matters. Ridge couldn't hear anymore. He turned away, his entire body aching. The treachery was not limited to the falsehood. It also included the years lost. Birthdays, holidays, and father-son conversations felt like scenes from another person's tale. He remembered RJ's expression, how the boy, no young man, had gazed at him with admiration and trust. How could he tell him? He walked away without saying anything else, leaving Brooke shattered and wanting to find him. However, Ridge was unable to look at her. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. He sat in the dark for hours after returning home. He did not switch on the lights. He did not pour another drink. He just sat, thinking of his father and the principles Eric instilled in him. Of devotion, truth, and family. Everything felt poison now. His foundation cracked. When Steffi discovered out, she was furious. She had always been protective of her father and distrustful of Brooke's influence. And now that distrust has been validated. Thomas too was shaken but less startled. He'd always claimed Brooke had exploited Ridge's heart for her own ends. And now he had proof. But RJ suffered the most. Ridge hesitated telling him. He battled with it. Brooke begged him to let go. To shelter RJ from the truth. She insisted that nothing would change. Ridge had reared and loved him. Biology did not break that bond. But Ridge could not lie. Not anymore. He sat RJ down one afternoon on the balcony, with the California sun casting golden shadows across the patio. I need to tell you something, Ridge said. RJ seemed uneasy but nodded. Okay. What's up? You took the DNA test a few weeks ago. For the application. Yeah, RJ replied, smiling weakly. Kind of cool stuff. I had the results looked into, Ridge remarked, his voice cold. Privately. And then I had more testing done. The smile disappeared. You're not my biological son, RJ. The quiet was awful. RJ glanced at him unmoved. What? He inquired finally. Ridge repeated it softly this time. RJ did not respond. His fists were gripped on his knees, and his face was pallid. After a long pause, RJ murmured. Who is? Nick Marone, Ridge answered. RJ jumped up, pacing, 1,000 things rushing through his mind. Why? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I didn't know, Ridge said. I just found out. And your mother? She didn't tell me. She kept it a secret. RJ ceased walking. His entire body trembled. She lied to both of us. Yes. The word struck like a hammer. What does this mean? RJ asked. Should I call him Dad now? Do you walk away? Ridge stood and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. You're my son. I raised you. I changed your diaper. I taught you to ride a bicycle. I helped you through school and life. None of this changes. But the truth matters. You deserve to know who you are. RJ broke then. The tears came unexpectedly and fiercely. Ridge hugged him, both of them silently mourning the fantasy that had just been dashed. The consequences were severe in the days that followed. Brooke was shunned, her reputation damaged. Her friendships were fractured. Katie attempted to protect her. Donna was too surprised to say much. Eric, saddened, kept to himself. He had cherished RJ like a grandson. Still did. But the agony of betrayal rippled throughout the Forrester family. Nick Marone was unwillingly welcomed into the fold. He, like everyone else, was stunned at first. He demanded his own test, and when it revealed the truth, he was divided between guilt and surprise. He hadn't been present in RJ's life, not out of neglect but due to ignorance. Now he wanted to intervene, to form a bond. But Ridge wasn't ready to let it happen just yet. He was not prepared to share. Brooke, meanwhile, made quiet measures to restore. She apologized, publicly and privately. She continuously asked Ridge for another chance. He ignored her. Her falsehoods had been too costly. Her decisions had scorched bridges that could not be repaired by apologies. RJ was caught between two worlds, two fathers, two identities. He went to see Nick, spoke with him, and attempted to grasp what it meant to be his son. But he also clung to Ridge, the guy who had raised him, loved him, and fought beside him. In the end, the truth did not destroy them. Rather, it redefined them. Ridge, eternally changed, had discovered that blood did not always determine family, but trust did. And that once broken, it may take a lifetime to mend. Brooke was once again on the periphery of Ridge's existence. She observed him from a distance, knowing she might never be completely forgiven. Her love for him remained, but it had evolved into something calmer and laced with guilt. And RJ, stuck between fact and recollection, began to forge a new route for himself. One that revered both of his fathers. One that embraces complexity. One that demonstrated that, even in a culture full of secrets and scandals, identification was more than genetics. It was decision, courage, and the people who showed up when things went apart. The bold and the beautiful spoilers for the coming 2 weeks indicate some twists and turns. From August 4th to 15th, Brooke Logan is expected to fall off Nick Marone's motorboat. Meanwhile, John Finnegan confronts Grace Buckingham. Continue reading and let's discuss what's coming up on the CBS soap drama, Eric Forrester's SOS. Before we get into the 2-weekers, let's look at what's coming up from August 4th to August 8th. Eric Forrester will be outraged after seeing Nick with an engagement ring box. Eric will persuade Ridge Forrester to approach Brooke before Nick proposes. Ridge rushes to the harbor, but Brooke has already left with Nick on the boat. Brooke Logan's accident. Brooke decides to lie on top of the speedboat as it zooms through the ocean. Of course, Brooke falls. However, Ridge is nearby and has sent jets to the rescue. Nearly losing Brooke may have him reconsidering everything. Will Brooke really reunite with Ridge simply because he saved her from drowning? Gratitude and sincere love are not the same. Hopefully, Brooke will simply thank Ridge and proceed on her way with Nick. I am not sure if the soap writers agree with me. So let's see which dude Brooke ends up with. Grace Buckingham busted. Finn will then confront Grace about faking Liam Spencer's brain cancer. When Grace is caught, she does not apologize or explain herself. Instead, she asks Finn to cover for her. Initially, Finn declines to cover for her. In fact, a preview film reveals Finn instructing Grace to tell Liam and Hope Logan the truth. Lope sits up straight, horrified at Finn's remarks. However, Grace lacks the body language of someone preparing to confess. She seems like she is about to bolt. The bold and the beautiful spoilers. Next 2 weeks. From August 11th to 15th, we'll learn if Finn reveals Grace to Hope and Liam, or if he hides until the last minute. Grace would never engage in something like this deception on her own. Someone must be making her do it. Taylor Hayes will respond to the situation in nice regarding Bridge. Bill Spencer will very likely learn about Grace's scheme. Bill is not the type of man you want to piss off. Grace may, however, claim that she was coerced into carrying out the scam. So, perhaps Bill will use his connections and power to neutralize a larger threat?